So you finally found the perfect home, the one you really like. But do you know how to write the perfect offer? The one that has the best chances of getting accepted over other buyers? Finding the right home requires a lot of time and energy, and nothing is more devastating than getting your offer rejected or being dragged into a bidding war. Now today we're diving into the art of writing the perfect real estate offer. Whether you are a first-time home buyer or a seasoned pro, this vlog is packed with insights to help you craft an offer that stands out in a competitive market, and it has little to do with the price. So let's get right into it. If you are new to my channel and would like to know more about living in the Palm Beaches and tips and tricks on buying, selling, or investing in real estate, then subscribe below and tap the bell so you will be the first to know as soon as a new video is posted. By the way, I'm Klaus Sinn, and I'm leading a real estate team here in the Palm Beaches. And my team and I, we get calls, emails, and texts from people like you almost every day, and we're loving it. So whether you are thinking about moving in 9 days, 9 weeks, or 9 months, or maybe just have a real estate question that's bugging you, call, text, email, or schedule a Zoom call with me, which I like best, and use my 30 years of experience and knowledge in the South Florida real estate market to your advantage. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty of crafting the perfect real estate offer, let's be clear that I am a real estate broker and I'm not an attorney. Therefore, any content in any of my videos should not be considered legal advice. So they should not be considered legal advice. But unlike most agents, I highly recommend that you hire a real estate attorney with expertise in the kind of transaction you are looking to close. It is probably the best money you will have ever spent, and I should actually do a separate video on that. Anyway, let's take a moment to talk about your real estate agent. Who should be your ally? Clarify the form of representation you have with your agent to ensure the agent is actually representing you and not the seller. You should be able to openly communicate with your agent and let them guide you through the process. Be open to negotiations. It's very rare that your first offer is going to be accepted as is. Know your limits, but also be willing to find common ground. Secondly, you need to see things from the seller perspective. Sellers are not just looking for the highest offer. They want a deal that's smooth, reliable, and aligns with their goals. Why are they moving? Is the home still occupied or already vacant? Are they getting a lot of cash at the closing, or do they have a big mortgage and they walk maybe away with little cash? That would make their move much more difficult. As more as you know about them, the easier you can communicate that you are not just the buyer, you're the right buyer. I closed more than 1,000 transactions in my career, most of them on the listing side, and I'm still amazed how many buyers agents simply sent me an offer by email without ever taking a minute to talk to me, the listing agent, to find out more about the seller situation, to help crafting them a better offer. Knowledge is power, and I don't know how to say that. You have your agent to find out as much as possible about the seller situation. Sometimes that's not really easy, but if it's crafted in a way that the listing agent understands you're trying to make a better offer, they will talk to you. They give you some insights. Or your agent, I should say. Even a bit of information can give you the advantage of outbidding other buyers at the beginning stage. Now, since you're already putting your offer on paper, let's start with the listing price. The listing price is nothing more than what the seller is asking for. There could be 100 of reasons how the seller came up with that price, and most of them have little to do with the actual market price of the home or what the seller is willing to accept. Knowing this, your offer should always be based on the actual market value of the home, which could be significantly lower than the listing price. It could be right at the listing price, but it could also be higher than the listing price. If you're serious about buying that home, then keep your offer competitive but also realistic. You don't want to overpay. Your real estate agent can help you determine a fair offer based on marketing trends and property values. And while some negotiation is acceptable, if the seller is not willing to accept your offer for market value, then simply move on. There's no reason overpaying because you make the money when you buy it. That's how we say it when you invest in homes. So with that said, let's talk about the earnest money deposit, which is our advantage point number one. Most offers include a very low earnest money deposit, like $500 or $1,000. Sometimes a second deposit is offered after the inspection period. This is not very enthusing to a seller. A solid earnest money deposit demonstrates commitment. It's a way of saying, hey, I'm serious about that offer. The highest amount, or let's say the higher the deposit is, the more seriously the seller will take your offer. And since it will be part of the purchase price or should be refundable if the terms of the contract are not met, why not put up a significant amount up front? In most cases, you have 3 days from the date the seller accepts your offer to make the deposit, and it should be held in escrow by the closing company. So no reason to lowball the escrow. You have to come up with the money anyway. So the second advantage point is to show the seller your ability to pay. Include a proof of funds letter or a pre-approval letter from your lender. This shows the seller that you're serious and have the financial means backing to make the purchase. However, make sure you keep it within the range of your offer. So what I mean is you don't want to show the seller a bank statement with twice the balance on it of your offer, because they may be intrigued to counter higher because they see how much money you have. The same goes with your pre-approval letter. Your lender will be happy to limit the number to your offer price. So let me repeat that to make it very clear. If you provide the seller with a bank statement, if it has a balance that's a lot higher than what your offer is, the seller might be intrigued to counter higher simply because they see how much money you got, right? So instead, talk to your banker and simply have them write a letter that you are good for that amount, whatever your offer is. So let's say your offer is $500,000, have the banker write a letter. Our client, Mr. Buyer, is able and has the liquid assets in order to close on a transaction for that money. If you need to go up, you can always get that revised if they even want that. Now, if you get a pre-approval letter from your lender, well, let's say you're going to buy a house and the house costs $500,000, but you are approved for $1 million. Well, I do not want to give the seller an approval letter for $1 million because it's the same reason. They maybe think, oh, he's approved for $1 million. Let's counter and see if we can get more money out of it. So I hope you get that. Make it as close as possible to your offer price. With that said, brings us to the next point. Now, the third advantage point is the closing date, and it could be a game changer. But remember, knowledge is power and flexibility is key. If you adapt to the seller's needs and you are willing to accommodate them, you'll probably solve the bigger problem than the price. So let's say the seller is still in the house and he needs a long closing. The issue with this is that a lot of things out of anyone's control can happen until the closing, and it is a big stress factor to the seller and the buyer. So instead of a long closing date, propose a very short closing date with a post-occupancy agreement. That will give the seller peace of mind, money in their pocket, and the availability to move on quicker, and you closed and the house is yours. Vice versa, you can assume that the seller wants a quick closing if the home is vacant. Even if you're not ready to move in right away, offer the fastest possible closing you can manage. I won many transactions, even against higher offers, because we close super fast and offer the post-occupancy to the seller. gives them peace of mind. It's that simple. Which brings me to the fourth advantage point, which is inspection terms. The Florida as-is contract is the most common real estate contract used in Florida. If you live in another state, you need to talk to your agent to make sure what the conditions are and the terms. Well, in Florida, the as-is contract, it binds the seller to stay in the transaction starting from the effective day, which is the day all parties have signed the contract. It allows the buyer to cancel the contract during the inspection period for pretty much no reason, with a full refund after deposit. Let me rephrase that. So you're in a contract with the seller. The seller cannot get out of this contract. You need to stay in unless you violate the terms. But you, as the buyer, you have the right to cancel that contract for absolutely no reason during the inspection period, and you get all your money back. Now, that should make it clear that you have a big advantage and the seller has a disadvantage. So therefore, the seller wants that inspection period to be over with as soon as possible. They want to make sure that money gets hot. Therefore, you should put the shortest feasible inspection time in the offer. I never ask for more than 7 days and sometimes only 5 days, depending on the weekday I'm writing the offer. It is always easier to get an extension after inspection deadline than to lose the offer to another buyer in the first place. But as a side note, never ever make an offer waiving the inspection. Many of the buyers who fell in this trap during the last 2 years are paying dearly for it. If you can't get an inspection, it's not worth buying, period. So, advantage point number 5, contingencies and conditions. Many times I'm getting offers with a slew of contingencies, some of them implemented by the agent brokers, some of them by the agents, and some of them requested by the buyers themselves. And sometimes I need my attorney to read them because they don't make any sense to me. They're so complicated. So think about how the seller feels about them. If your agent is using a Florida bar or 4-bar contract, there is not much that needs to be added unless it is buyer specific. Clearly outline any contingencies and conditions, but do not go overboard. Clarity reduces uncertainty, making your offer more appealing, and if you can inspect or research conditions like permits or other specifics, then keep them out of the contingencies, because you have the right to inspect the property, and during that time to inspect the property, you can check on permits, you can check on everything. And if you don't like it, well, the contract gives you the right to cancel. The contract gives you the right to negotiate again, renegotiate the terms of the contract, renegotiating inspection findings, renegotiate problems you have with open permits or no permits. You are in the driver's seat. So don't make it complicated before it gets complicated. Which brings me to advantage point number 6, which is a personal letter. Now, real estate transactions are highly emotional, and small things can make a big difference. Therefore, you should always consider attaching a personal letter. Introduce yourself and share a bit about who you are and express why this home is perfect for you and your family, and maybe your vision for the future. It adds a human touch and it can go a long way. I got an offer for one of my listings accompanied with a personal letter, and my seller accepted that offer over a higher one just because the buyers, they liked the same football team and they came from the same state as the seller, coincidentally. And then I won an offer because my clients were a young couple with their first baby on the way, and the sellers just became grandparents, and they were touched. They want to give that young family a chance over some other buyers. Again, the price didn't matter as much at that point. Well, I'm not saying, you get the house for free or for so much less, but when it gets close to it, emotions play a big role. So let's summarize it. First, make a competitive but realistic offer based on market trends and market value. Secondly, make a significantly earnest money deposit from the get-go. Third, set the quickest close-in time you can. Fourth, keep the inspection period as short as possible. Fifth, this is 5. Don't put any contingencies in the contract that you can handle or renegotiate during the inspection period. Sixth, write a personal letter. And with that said, you created the perfect offer. Now, 3 things can happen. Number 1, the seller accepts your offer. Yay, awesome. Number 2, the seller rejects your offer. That simply means somebody is probably paying too much for the home, and you can nothing do about it. Number 3, the seller counters your offer, which can be as simple as countering your price or some of the terms, or as tricky as a multiple offer situation, which would require some finesse from your agent, because most likely they're going to come back and say, we want your highest and best offer by tomorrow night, and you have no idea what you're competing with. I will do a separate video on how to best react to a multiple offer situation and potentially save thousands of dollars like many of my buyers did. Well, and there you have it, the recipe for a perfect real estate offer. And if you find these tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more real estate wisdom at the bottom, and hit the notification bell so you will be the first one to know when my next video will be posted. And always remember, if you are thinking about moving in 9 days, 9 weeks, 9 months, or maybe just have a real estate question that is bugging you, text me, email me, call me, or schedule a Zoom call with me, which I like best. I would love to talk to you and guide you in the right direction. And with that said, have a great rest of your day, and I guarantee I'll be back.